Hello there, it's Tailz from Studio Wildfire here. Oof, I hope everybody can hear me. New mic, new sounds, and a computer that's slowly dying. Yes, we've had some thunderstorms here, and my poor old computer is on its last legs. So I've got a kind of a, let's say hello. I've got a kind of a bodged up computer at the moment. It's running, kind of, sort of, it's working. But anyway, let's jump into this. Last Monday, I built this little map that you should be able to see on your screen. It is the ground floor of a little building, which we'll build into a we'll make it into a little tower, like a 2-level tower. So we're going to have a set of stairs going up here. We're going to have a set of stairs going down here. So we'll build either, the map for down below or the map above today. And we'll put in the dynamic lighting, we'll put in doors and all that sort of jazz. And I can show you how to add in story notes. So let's have a look at making a little map for the above ground floor. So if we look at this, so we know we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4 by 4. Little tower, and we've got 2 stairs coming up here. So we need to replicate that in our upper level. So we're going to make a new map. So let's get rid of this one, and we'll go and create a new item. So usually when I'm map building, I like to fill up the screen as much as I can and have an area here on the right where I keep my art assets palette. Okay, so let's set up the map. So we've got the map, we've got a blank canvas, so we set the grid to 180. There we go. So now that we've got our grid, we need our art assets. So we click on assets. Now, usually when I'm using the assets palette, I'll make it about this big. So so you can increase or decrease the size by this little tab down the bottom right hand corner, so you can actually make it bigger. Usually I think the minimum you can do is 3 items wide, so I usually do something like that, and then I take up the rest of the space like that. And then with the canvas, our map canvas, usually, just like that. So that way we've got our map canvas, we've got all the canvas controls that we're going to be needing, and then we've got all of our art assets over here. So let's go and find. I think we used dungeon map tiles last time, so we want to use slender brick. Okay, so this is the brick texture for our walls. Now the first thing I'm going to do before I start adding any art assets to the adventure map, I'm going to create some folders. I'm going to create 4 folders. So the first one is going to be features. That's our feature elements. So that's where we're going to be putting all of our props and objects. The next one, that's where we put all of our walls, our wall tiles, followed by our floors, and a final ground. Now, the ground one isn't really going to get used because we're going to be making a top level, like a level above a floor. So we're not really going to be using ground, so it's not going to be needed, but just out of habit, I put it in. We are going to be needing floors, we are going to be needing walls, and we are going to be needing features. Features is where we put all things like tables and chairs, doors, all that sort of stuff. So let's start with walls. And grab our walls. So I'm going to block out the outside of the building. So I'm going to drag in. Here we go. So let's just pop that there. So I'm basically just making the outer walls at the moment. So that way I know how big my adventure map, because this is like level 2 of a little tower. So that's there like that, and then we go and put these ones down here. So blocking out is good because it allows you to figure out, you know, how much space do you have to work with. So there we go, and then we got over this side, which is these ones. So once you know how much space you've got to work with, it's pretty easy to sort of, you know, work out where you want to have rooms and where details have to go. Like, for example, I need to put a staircase just here. So that's probably going to be the first thing that I will put in. There we go. So I hope your Monday's shaping up to be pretty good. Ooh, now that's I accidentally drew that one in, but we pretty much need that one anyway because that's an internal corner. So I'll put that there. Oops. So put that there. There we go. Now we need some little cornerstones for the corners of our building. They are in our cornerstones and doorways folder. Now, I believe I was using these rounded corners. So we just pop them there like that. This one. Oops. He's the wrong one. I want these ones. Yes, my poor old computer is it's not doing so well. We had some thunderstorms. Those of you who don't know, I live in a place called Queensland in Australia, and we have a very tropical climate. So at the moment we're actually suffering a heat wave, but apart from that we get thunderstorms, big whopping thunderstorms, tropical storms actually. Pardon me. And the last set of tropical storms that we had toasted my computer, my poor old computer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in where the staircase comes out. So it comes up here. So this floor is going to be flat, and then we're going to have the staircase going down here. So this is going to be, it's going to sort of come up and then turn and come out here. So this little block is going to be a corner of the wall, and I'll use another block and it will also be there. So okay, since we've popped down quite a number of assets, what we need to do is we need to grab them, pick them up, put them into our folder for our walls. There we go. So there we go. They're all organized in the walls folder. The good thing about having them in a folder is that you can just hide the entire folder and, you know, edit them like that. Now we need a dead end here, so we need to go back up here, go to our passageways. Here's our dead ends. So we pop that there. See how it's coming out. So you look at this as like you're coming out here and then turning into this area. So we need a corner. Now this, this is the the pack that I'm using at the moment is the Dungeon Map Tiles pack 4. Now, if you like this, you can actually pick up the Dungeon Map Tiles cheaply this coming weekend for the Cyber. Well, it's the Black Friday Cyber Monday sales, where you can get it for a good percentage off. If you're a member of my Patreon, you can get it for 50% off with a special code that you can find in my Patreon Medium stream. But if you're not, you can find it for I think Drive Through and Roll. I think Fantasy Grounds will have it for 30% off. Obviously, if you want to have the 50% discount, just join up to my Patreon for a month, and there you go. You can grab it that way at 50% off. Or if you join my Patreon and become a Wizard class subscriber, you'll get it for free. You'll get it as just part of your subscription, because Wizard class subscribers get all of my stuff for free. You get access to my entire library. Okay, so that's where our staircase is going to come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to divide this into 2 rooms. So 2 rooms here, or actually it'll be like 3. So we'll have like a hallway and maybe a sitting room, and then two 10-foot rooms. I think that's a good idea. So let us, how can we do that? So if we make a doorway, so we'll have a doorway here. We'll have a doorway here, just there. So we now need to go back up and grab some of our walls. There we go. Just like that. And then we need to have some corner pieces, because we'll have like that, and corner on the other side, that. Then we need to do the other corners. Oops, where are we? There we are. So down here, just like that. Then we need corners here, corner here. Oops. And as you can see, I'm just dragging and dropping each art asset. I can speak English. Just dragging and dropping each one in as I go. So I'm going to put in some windows. Just like that. So I think I'll put window here, window here. Now I think my windows are, whereabouts are they? Door tokens, slender bricks. Do I have windows? I'm sure I have windows. Window, there we are. Arrow slit windows. So the way that I've done these is they block out the entire section. So if I just take that one out and this one out, okay. So you'll see as I drag in this piece, it blocks out, whoops, it blocks out that whole wall. Same up here. There we go. Then we just have to put cornerstones here, and we will be done pretty much for the walls for this upper level. So what we'll need to do is, once we put in our walls, grab my, where's the cornerstones? Here we go. So we need, which one is it? This one? Whoops, wrong one. It's not that one, it's this one. There we go. Then we need this one here. That will go over there. Cool. So that's pretty much all the walls that we need for this upper level. So what we need to do now is grab all the art assets that we've placed, but we haven't put into the correct folder. So grab them. What I like to do is I pick them up, because there's a lot of them. I pick them up, and you'll notice that when you pick them up, your folders will jump to the top of the list. So let the folders jump to the top of the list. All this stuff will still be selected. Then you can just grab it again and plonk, put it into the folder, and it's easy to sort. And again, if you want to hide it, just do that. One thing you can do is you can lock the walls folder just by hitting this little lock, and it will lock all of those pieces in place. So it means that you can actually select them, but you can't move them. See, I'm trying to drag them around, and nothing's happening. So you can actually select them. So if you need to find them, it's pretty easy, but you can't move them, which is good, because you don't want to accidentally move things. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to put in the floor. So I'm going to start with the staircase area. So I think we're using grungy concrete, and then we go to our steps. Now we need steps going off this way, which is this one. So we just put that there. Now it looks a bit weird because I haven't put it into the folder it needs to be in. So what we need to do is, first I'm going to grab another piece. So this piece here, this will be the upper step. So you'd walk up here and then turn and then come out here. Now, because I haven't moved these into the folders that they need to be in, it's looking a bit weird, but that's okay. We'll cover that in just a jiffy. So I'm going to quickly fill in the rest of this floor. Now you'll notice that I'm putting, this has a texture where there's like stones peeking through the concrete, and then there's a concrete with no stones peeking through. So what I like to do is I alternate between tiles that have the concrete, like the stones peeking through, and then concrete, stones peeking through, concrete, and it helps to break up what would be close to being a monotonous texture. So we'll just put that one there, and then this one here. So they have no stones peeking through. So that's why I'm sort of starting with them. And I just do like a checkerboard pattern. It just, it helps sort of break up the pattern. Same thing. So we're going to have stones here, but we put that one there. And then this last piece just goes there. So then if we go to the next page of our art assets, we'll see we have lots more stones. So we grab this one, you could go there. Grab this one, goes there. So again, it looks a bit weird because I'm covering up part of the map, but I'll move everything in a jiffy. So pop that there. Oops. We'll snap it in place. This one down there. This one. Oops, I keep accidentally dragging the whole panel. And then we go back and grab this one again, and you can fill in there. Now, if you want to zoom in and out, that's your mouse wheel. So you can zoom out and zoom in. You'll notice that when you're building with a blank canvas, it's pretty much unlimited. You can zoom out as much as you like. You can place pieces over here or pieces over there, but generally, I find the best thing to do is just work it in, zoom in, work at a nice where you can see the majority of what you want to see. Now, if you want to reset the zoom back to 100%, pixels on the screen, just right click, you'll get this options up, click on view, and then reset zoom, and you'll go back to 100%. most of my map building, I do at about this percentage. But that is pretty much all we need for the floor. So again, grab all of our floor pieces, drag it down, let the folders jump on top, and then into the floor folder. There we go. So again, we can hide it, we can lock it, and that's pretty much our map built. So what we do from here is we'll be adding in the dynamic lighting line of sight and maybe some tokens. So let's go to our assets. Now I'm going to look for a specific pack. I think this is the I think I have the shadows in, yes, here we go. So in Dungeon Map Tile 6, I added a folder of sort of shadowing overlays. Now the whole idea of the shadowing overlays is to give the idea of depth. So if I drag this one in, see how it's you know, black to transparent. Now what I use this, I put this into my features folder. Or actually I'm going to put this between my floor and walls folder. I'm then going to turn it. So you'll notice that there's a couple of buttons here. When you're editing tiles, there's quick transition. So there's rotate, which is, you know, as it rotates 45 degrees. But there's also flip, and it quite literally flips pieces around. Now I don't think. Yep, I was wondering. This is a 1x2. What I usually like to do is do something like this. But I wonder. So if I scale it. Oops. Just going to hide the walls. So you'll notice on every tile that there are a couple of little handles. So for example, these little squares and this white circle. The circle allows you to just freely drag and rotate. If you hold down Control, you can do it without snapping. The other handles, which are these little squares, allow you to stretch and deform the tile. So I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm going to go put this one back down. So what I want to do is I want to stretch this so that it's just one square, and then turn it and then pop it there. So that way it gives the idea that you're going down into darkness. And I'm putting this between our floor and walls. There we go. So when I turn the walls back on, it looks like this is descending into darkness. Now this, if you overlay this map over the top of the other one, this is exactly where the staircase would be. So that's pretty much what we want. That sort of gives that illusion of depth. Now, here comes the fun stuff. Adding in line of sight. So if we have a look at the line of sight option here, this is where we define how the map, or how Fantasy Grounds reads walls so it can block shadows and lights. So we need to block out, you know, these walls which have little windows in them. Now, there's various different ways people do it. I've seen some people who will, for example, they'll click on the rectangle and they'll just go and block out stuff really quick, like that. See how it creates the extra thing, the extra points, but it's still got lines going through. I think I always forget this. We need to turn on simplified selected includers. I think that's it. or is it trim includers? That's probably the one that I want. Yeah, let's just, there we go. Okay, so because what you need to do is you don't want to have these internal lines, but what I do, it can sometimes be a little bit more fussy. I get rid of all that. I just start with a line, and I just draw a line. I zoom in a bit, and I just pick a point. Now, you'll notice I've started inside the wall. There is a reason for that. I'll get to it at the end. And just start putting in these lines. And I draw the lines a little bit inside the wall. It's just, you know, you don't have to do it. You'll find what works for you. This is kind of what works for me. So I draw a little bit inside the wall. Around. Now, this is why I drew this line starting inside the wall. So I'm going to overlap quite a bit. And then you double click to end your line. Now see how, if I zoom in, see how it created a little vertex point there? We wanted that. So we want to select our, go back to the select tool, select this one, delete it, select this one, delete it, and now that is our line joined up. So that's how I like to draw walls. And these are the lighting occluders, I think they're called. So you need to do that for each wall section. Now I'll get to the windows in a minute because there's a bit of a trick to them. Now the important thing about doing windows is you've got to remember most windows are going to be a rectangle or a square. So you need to have 2 points where your window occluder lines will connect. But we're not going to do that just yet. So let's just draw this wall over here. Now I'm going to start out here. And it doesn't need to be, you know, 100% perfect. Because, you know, your artwork is what's going to be the main feature. These are, you know, to define how the program reads the artwork, to define how it lights it. We'll get to lighting in a moment. Let's go through that. Now, if you don't know how to move around the map, I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning. I move around the map. See how I'm sort of sliding the map around? That is my middle mouse button. So what I'm doing is I'm clicking to place vertex points. I'm then using my middle mouse button to grab and hold onto the canvas, drag it around, and then, you know, I just put some more points. Now I'm coming to end my line, so I go out here. That's roughly where I want it to end, and then I'll click. Oops. You can continue if your line, you know, let's just say it ended there. That's not really where I wanted it. So you can select, delete, select, delete. You can come back down here, select the last point, and oops. Select, so you clicked on your line tool, click on the last point, and then you can continue drawing. There we go. And then you double click where you want it to end. And once again, you know, you just finesse a little bit of finesse, and it's all nice and clean. Now, the reason why I did, like, I draw, you know, this is, you could, some people I've seen do this really, really quickly and really, really easily. This is just the nicest way I've found of doing it. I've seen, you know, as I said, I've seen people use the, you know, this tool, and they can just quickly whack down stuff, and it looks really cool. But it's just, you know, personal preference. I think Doug Davidson from Fantasy Grounds, he has a great video on how to do this, and he's got a really great technique. So, you know, check that out. Go and check out the Fantasy Grounds video collection, since this is Fantasy Grounds. But anyway, this is how I do it. I'm not saying the way that I do it is good or bad. It's just, this is just the way I do it. But anyway, windows are pretty easy, as long as you realize that you need to have the points where you need to have your window, and you've got point snap on. Easy to do. So I just go up, I click on rectangle, I draw out the rectangle. Oops, that's sort of giving it away, but and let me just do that. So I'll do it down here. So this is going to be my window. Now I'm doing it here because if I do it here, it's going to snap to these points because they're rather close. But I'm doing it here so you can see that the optimum way I've found of making windows is to draw out a square and then drag, come on, drag the points, and see how they snap to the other points. And do that. And that way you've got, you know, everything's coming up groovy. And the only problem I think I've got at the moment is that I've put on trim interior includers. So if I drag this off here, no, because what you want to have happen is you want to keep your wall includer as well, like that. Because if you don't, you can end up with a situation where the red line comes along, stops here, then you've got yellow, then the red line starts again. The problem with that is that Fantasy Grounds lighting will see the window gap as an actual gap, and it'll have light go through there. Whereas if you do it this way, you don't. It sees it as a wall. So we'll go to the other one up here, and we do pretty much the same thing. Draw out our rectangle, go to select, and just start, you know, moving things. So I'm just moving them up so that I don't run the chance that I can have things flip through other lines and create new vertex points. And there we go. There is our window. Pretty simple. I use the same method when I'm making doors. So if what I would have done if I had a door in here. Let's just say I had a door here, which we can go and put in a door. Let's put in a door. Now, one thing to remember as well, these, and this is, I've sort of stuffed up a bit here, but it's all right. It's kind of in a position that's okay. This data, this information needs to go on a layer. Usually what I do is I will create, you'll see down the bottom here, it's got a add wall layer. So usually I'll create a wall layer or an FFX layer for, like, FFX is for like lighting and stuff like that. Usually I'll create a layer specifically for this information. That way it doesn't, you know, you've got a layer where you know all this data is kept. And again, you know, when you turn the layer invisible, all the data goes away. Now, I've accidentally put this onto the shadow block here. That's perfectly fine. It's not going to hurt anything. It's going to be okay. I probably shouldn't have done that, but yeah, it works. It works for our intents and purposes. It's working. So we've created our walls. We've created our floor. We've put in the dynamic lighting data for where the walls are and where our windows are. Let's pop in some lights. Now, doing lighting is pretty easy. So you come up, so you click on the lighting tool, then you click on add light, because we want to add a light. Now you can select presets. So for example, let's assume that there's a table with a candle in this room, and the candle is right there. Let's assume that there's another one with a candle right here in this room, like maybe on a desk in this corner, like that. And maybe there's another one. Well, maybe there is a torch. Hello there, Sir Tired. How you doing? Good to see you. But maybe you've got, in this room, we've got a torch. So if we click on torch for the preset, plonk, plonk that there. Now, at the moment, you can't see the effect that these lights are having and how they're interworking with the dynamic walls. So, to see that, we need to go to play, which is this little button here. We need to then start turning on the map as how players and dungeon masters would see it. And we do that by enabling all these features. So we now can start to see how so we can see the effects of having a candle here, and a lantern just here, or actually a torch just here. So we can start to see how those lighting effects are playing out. So we can actually start to change them. So if we go back to our lighting, we're in edit mode. So if I grab the torch, you'll see that as I drag it around, how the lighting from the torch is being changed by the dynamic lighting that we've set up for our walls. And it's also being changed by how we set up the lighting for our windows. So we could do effects where, let's just say we have you know, we're underground, or we have a daylight scene outside. So see how, you know, maybe we could have a window which has somebody outside it shining a torch through, stuff like that. So you can sometimes make some interesting little effects with the lights and, you know, doorways and stuff. But let's put this. Now the interesting thing is that we have, you know, we've got our staircase here, but with the lighting that I've set up so far, I just scroll back and put it over here. So assume we have a, you know, a torch hanging off the wall here. You can see that, you know, this entire area is in darkness. So maybe we might need to put another, let's put another candle. Put a candle, and maybe we need to have it there. And that way we get to see, you know, we get to see more things. You know, depending upon where you put your lights. Oops, I think I just accidentally created an extra light. Yep, there it is. And, you know, I like to use lights to work out how things will look to adventurers as they're, as they're navigating a map. You think, oh, what will things look like as they come into this room? What will it look like as they go down these stairs? That sort of thing. And unfortunately with lights, once you select a light, to get rid of it, you can't just press delete. You need to press this little icon over here. It's just a little quirk. So we'll put a candle. Instead of having a torch in there, we'll have another candle. So this could be a candle on a wall sconce. This could be another candle on a wall sconce just here. This could be a candle on a table. Same as this one. So let's actually put some objects in. So I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to look for my props and objects. Fantasy furniture. Here we go. So let's put in a barrel. Every medieval building needs its own barrel. So let's put in a barrel here. Now, this is where you start to need to put things in certain orders. So let's rotate our barrel and pop it into the corner right there. Now, do we have, if I go through our objects, do we have, let's see if we've got a candle. There we go. So we have a candle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the candle. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. Grab our candle. Now see how it's snapping to the object? So we're going to hold down Control. Move it over here. So we'll put a candle on our barrel. And then I'm going to rotate it. So it looks like it's, in position. Good. Now I'm going to go back to our lights, grab our candle, and I'm going to move it so it's in the position that it would be with our object. And there, it looks like it belongs. So we've got a candle on a barrel. Let's pop another candle. We'll put it in here, but we'll see if we can find something more interesting. We'll use a box. We'll use a box for now. So put in a box. It's a rather big box. How do we get that through the door? So we'll just we'll scale it. Scale it down. Oops, make certain it still looks square. Give it a rotate. Oh, may actually rotate it a bit more. There we go. Put it over in this corner. And again, grab our candle, rotate it around, and let's just zoom in and put it. Now this is, we have to put our candle on top of our box. Whoops. Put our candle under the floor. There we go. So put our candle on the box, and then again go to our lights and just put the candle light on top of the candle. There we go. So it's rather sparse area. Now what could we put into? Let's go back up. Ooh, this could be interesting. So we have a pile of bones. Put a pile of bones in here. Let's put it over in this corner. So maybe there's been a murder. Da 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 da. And then we'll grab. So we'll have a table set. What's this table set? How big is this table? Can it fit within our 10 by 10 room? Yes, it can. So we'll put our table here. Now I know that there is a candle right there on our table. So I'm going to pop back to our lights, grab this candle, and pop it over the top of that. But what I might do is I might actually table set. I might actually make it a bit smaller. Oops, oh, I'm in our. So I need to go back to editing our layers, because this is the layers palette. So we grab this and let's just make it a wee bit smaller. So if you hold down shift, it'll proportionately scale something. So I'm holding down shift. There we go. So we'll make that, yeah, a little table like that. Just edit the light, put it back on top of the candle. And there we go. Now, where else? What else can we put in? We've got an altar, an axe, a banner, a bench, a cabinet. Let's have a look at the cabinet. Yeah, we could put a cabinet right here against the wall. And I know that this cabinet has a light on it as well. So if we use this one, pop the cabinet there, and then flip it, just like that. And then once again, go back to our lights. And actually, I can't see a candle on top of this cabinet, but we'll assume that there's a candle on it. And that could be our adventure map. So that's the top floor of our building. So it could be, let's just say it's a abandoned building with, you know, some odd odds and sods in it. Maybe someone's been hiding out there, and there's some bones. So that is the top floor. So let's call it the small tower. Small tower, top floor. This is what we call this. This is if it's unidentified, so it would be top floor. There we go. And then we can lock that because it's all done. Now, from here, now this is the cool bit. If you want to keep this as something that you're working on for an adventure, you will want to give notes for these rooms. So let us look at how we can do that. We go to story. Now I recommend creating a category. So let's call this. Oops. Let's call this the small tower. So that way, we have a group that all of our small tower notes can go in. And then to create a note, oops, wrong button, we click on this little add item button. This is where we get to write our text. So this is, let's call this, now how I like to do transitions between maps is I like to have a, so for example, this would be the staircase. So it's a title, staircase. You'll see that our story starts to populate, staircase. And I begin with writing, this is a brief description for yourself. So this would be a stone set of steps leading from the ground floor to the top floor. There we go. Oops. Now, here's the fun part. I like to put in Game Master Narrative. Now this is where I like to give a pre-written description. So this could be, how could we do? We could do a dust-covered set of steps leading up to the top floor of this little concrete tower. So we select that, we right click to get into formatting, go to paragraph type, and we call it the chat frame, so that when we click on it, it will go into our game narrative over here. It will pre-populate our game narrative. Now the next thing that I do is, this is how I like to get between maps. Maps. We just checking something. Yeah, we're still going good. So we add in, so again, paragraph type, a link. So we want 2 of these links. So we'll have going up, then we'll have a dash, the top floor. Then we'll have it going down, the ground floor. Now, how you make the link is, see this little icon here? And when you mouse over it says drag record link. So this is our top floor. So we want to populate the top floor with this. So we click and drag. Oops, it's not doing it. We hit the thing. So we click and drag into the top floor. So that way, when we click on that, this map will open. So we close this map. Oop, you can hear doggy. Doggy's barking. Now, same thing in our images. I like to do the same thing. So I like to categorize things. So we're going to create a category. We're going to edit it. Call it the small tower. There we go. And then we put all of our maps, small tower, into the small tower. Now I'm going to go and edit this map, which is our ground floor. So we're going to change it and call it small tower dash ground floor. And unidentified, it can just be ground floor. Okay, now here's the fun part. So we've got our description of our staircase. So if we grab this little item and drop it there, we create a map pin. So if we click on this map pin, we automatically get this node. Now this is a good way of creating, very simple transfers between areas without actually having to go into programming and all that sort of junk. So back in our images, we want to be able to use going down to access the ground floor. So again, click and drag the reference link into there, and we're done. So if we have, whoops, so I'll lock this piece of narrative. So that's all locked now, so we can't add to it or edit it. We can easily unlock it and go and edit it. But, so if we go back to our images, if we go to our ground floor, so we've got pin there. If we go to the top floor, I'm going to put the pin to the story narrative in there as well. Now, basically what this means is that when, you know, you're adventuring and you come along to the story notes, you go, oh, that's the staircase. Click on the staircase. Oh, the characters are going down. So I want to go from this map, which is the top floor. I want to go to the ground floor. You just click on the link. There you are. Same thing. If the characters are going to the top floor, click on staircase. This opens up. Click on going up. There's your map. Pretty simple, pretty easy. And it's just a simple piece of story narrative that you keep in your story notes. That's pretty much the bulk of how I build my adventures. It's a very simple sort of layout. You know, brief description, links, and then adventure maps. And I have it all, you know, in folders. Folders, so that, you know, that way if I'm just dealing with the small tower, I just have to look for the small tower folder. And, you know, that's the most organized I ever get. I've made a few little adventures. That's pretty much the method I use for crafting adventures. So I hope you've had fun watching. I think we'll call it there for the day, before my poor old computer overheats and explodes, or worse yet, melts. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something, and catch me next Monday as we build a bit more. Thank you. Bye bye.